Hi everyone, today is Wednesday, April 28th. Hopefully you have finished your warm-up. If you haven't, don't go any further. Go ahead and pause the video, complete these questions, and then come back because we're going to go over it. So question number 1, it says if each of the numbers below is multiplied by 5, then determine if the product is greater than or less than 5. So here's a trick. It's all about logic. We don't have to do any of the multiplication here. If I were to multiply a number by 1, then my answer is just going to be that same number. But if I multiply a number less than 1, my number, the product that I get, should be less than the number that I multiplied it by. Same concept if it's greater than 1. If I multiply 5 by a number greater than 1, my product, my answer, has to be greater than 5. So 7 over 8, 7/8. That is less than 1. Therefore, when I multiply it by 5, it is going to be less than 5. The next one, I have 6 over 5. That is greater than 1. Therefore, when I multiply it by 5, it is my answer, my product, is going to be greater than 5. 3/4, that is less than 1. So when I multiply that by 5, my product, my answer, is going to be less than 5. And then lastly, 3 over 2, that is greater than 1. Therefore, when I multiply it by 5, my answer is going to be greater than 5. So hopefully you got those correct. And if you didn't, go ahead and fix it. Now, number 2, it says Amanda purchases 2.5 pounds of lemons. The lemons were priced at $1.58 per pound. How much did Amanda spend on lemons? So the first thing that we should have noticed is that we have two different forms. We have a fraction and we have a decimal. And in order to multiply these together, we need to have the same form. So I'm just looking, me personally, it's easier for me to look at this and turn 2.5 pounds or 2.5 into a decimal than try to change $1.58 into a fraction. So 2.5 turns into 2.5. So now I'm going to multiply these two numbers together. So $1.58 times 2.5. Remember, when we're multiplying decimals, the decimal does not have to line up. So 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 4 is 29. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. Now I have to add my magic 0. 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1, 11. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Now I need to add it all together. 0, 9 plus 6 is 15. 7 plus 1 plus 1 is 9. And 3 plus nothing is 3. But now I have to figure out where to put my decimal. So I'm going to go back up to my two numbers. And I see that there are 1, 2, and 3 digits after the decimal. Therefore, I'm going to stick my decimal at the end and I'm going to move it 3 to the left. So 1, 2, 3. So how much did Amanda spend on lemons? She spent $3.95. Hopefully you got that correct. If you didn't, I hope the explanation was enough to maybe give you the reason why you missed it. Okay, so now we're going to transition over to what we're talking about today, which is proportionality. So everyone go ahead and get your proportionality cheat sheet out. Whoops, I'm going too far. Whoopsies. Okay, proportionality. So a ratio is a comparison of two quantities. So we got to make sure that it's set up correctly. So if I set up my proportion to where the boys are on top and the girls are on the bottom, for example, on this example, whenever I make another one, or I just have to make sure that, no, that's not it. Let me go back and rephrase. When it says must be set up correctly, that's going to all be determined in the question. So if it says the ratio of boys to girls is 3 to 4, then the boys would go on the top and the girls would be on the bottom. If it said students to girls, students would be on the left, girls would be on the right. If it said girls to boys, then it would be girls on the left, boys on the right. So it's all dependent on what the question is asking and how they phrase it. Okay, so that's a ratio. A rate is a ratio with two different units. So labels, you can write that above it, labels. So a rate is a ratio with two different labels. For example, on this first one, we have money to pounds. Then we have miles to hours. Then we have feet to seconds. And then a unit rate is a ratio with a quantity of 1. So the price per pound, the miles per 1 hour, the feet per 1 second. That would be a unit rate. Hopefully you can think back to that project that we did figuring out the unit rate. Next, we're going to talk about a proportion. A proportion are two equal ratios, which means a proportion has to have an equal sign. Has to have an equal sign. And these proportions can be used for a ton of things. It can be used to find a missing quantity. It has to be set up correctly. We solve for the missing quantity, and then we reread the problem to make sure our answer matches the question. So let's look at this example here. So it says I have miles per hour. Miles per hour, and this person drove 432 miles in 6 hours. And we're trying to find how many miles they will drive in 8 hours. Now, the first thing that we can look at is we need to find to see if there is a easy scale factor. So can I multiply one side by a simple number to get the other side? And in this case, I cannot multiply 6 by anything to get 8 easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross multiply. So 6 times x will give me 6x. And then I'm going to multiply 432 by 8. And when I multiply 432 by 8, let's go ahead and do that. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 2, 34. Okay, so the answer that we got matches the answer that they got. So I'm going to move up to the top now. So 3, 4, 5, 6, that's funny, equals 6x. So hopefully you remember how to solve this problem. So our goal is we want to get that x by itself. So I'm going to draw my line. And I know that when a number is directly next to a letter, that means that the operation is multiplication. So in order to get rid of multiplication, I have to divide both sides by 6. So that means x is left on one side, and I have to solve this. Let's see if I can make room here. So 3, 4, 5, 6 divided by 6. Can 6 go into 3? Nope. Can 6 go into 34? Yep. 6 times 5 is 30, so I subtract and get 4. I bring down my 5. 6 times 7 gives me 42. So I get 3. I got to bring down my 6, and then 6 times 6 is 36. So our answer matches what they get. Whoopsies, that's not what I wanted to do. So 576 miles in 8 hours. All right, measurement conversions. So measurement conversions is converting units in one measurement to another measurement. So for example, inches to yards, kilograms to grams. And you will be using the star chart that will be provided for you to be able to figure out kind of what these unit measurements are, okay? So for example, I have inches to yards. So I have 36 over 1, and you would absolutely be able to find this on your star chart. So I have 36 over 1, and that is equal to x over 5. So I'm trying to figure out how many inches are in 5 yards. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to see if there's an easy scale factor. In this case, there is. I know that if I multiply 1 by 5, that's going to give me 5. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So let's go over here. 36 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 is 18. So 5 yards is equal to 180 inches. All right. Now let's talk about how to change fractions to decimals, decimals to percents, percents to a decimal, percents to fraction. So equivalent forms. So fraction to decimal, we're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. We can use the ice cream method. So the 5 goes inside and the cone, the 6 goes on the outside. Now 6 cannot go into 5, so I have to add a decimal and a 0. I have to bring my decimal to the top. 6 cannot go into 5, so I put a 0. 6 can go into 50 8 times. 6 times 8 is 48. I subtract and get 2. I have to add another 0, bring it down, and we're just going to be repeating this whole thing. So 5 over 6 is equivalent to 83/100ths repeating. Same thing with 3 over 4. We're not going to do it, but you turn it into a decimal the exact same way. Now, the decimal to percent, you move the decimal 2 places to the right. So if you already have a decimal, then you move it 2 to the right, and then that will become your percent. So 0.125, we move the decimal 2 to the right, and that gives us 12.5%. Now, the percent to decimal, move the decimal 2 places to the left. Whoops, there you go. So if I'm given a percent, I just do the opposite, and I'm trying to go to a decimal. So I put my decimal at the end by the percent sign. I move it 2 to the left, and that's going to give me 0.65. Now, percent to fraction. You're going to put your percent over 100 and then reduce the simplest form. So if I have 75%, I know that it's always going to be over 100. So 75% turns into 75 over 100, and then I just simplify until I get the smallest form, which 75% would be 3/4. All right. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or to ask Miss Shaheen or Miss Vickers from across the hall. I'm going to talk to them and see if they can help y'all, out if you have a question. But if not, go ahead and email me, and I will do the best that I can to respond while I am not here. So go ahead, and you're going to go into today's agenda and finish reading today's agenda for the expectations for the day. Make sure we're doing that quick check. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye, guys.